Hello, everybody. We're waiting for the Secretariat to take their seats. You know, the Secretariat, they live in Latin American time. So that's John Whitelaw, right? Do you live in Latin American time?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what do we have today? So welcome back. So I hope you had a pleasant break, either having lunch, enjoying the sun, or working hard in the small groups or the budget contra group. Let me begin with outlining what is on the agenda for this afternoon. We will start with item 4C, artisanal small-scale gold mining, followed by agenda items 4D, Mercury waste, 4C, capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer, 4G, implementation and compliance committee, 4H, national reporting, and 4I, effectiveness evaluation. I'm not hopeful that we will go through everything we have scheduled in the afternoon, but with your help and making your interventions short, we will advance in our agenda. And as we know, we are lagging, so we are actually 4 items behind the organization of work schedule. Let's begin with ASGM. So, on artisanal and small-scale gold mining, the progress that parties are making in the implementation of Article 7 is of vital importance to this conference, particularly with ASGM as the largest source of mercury emissions and releases globally. So now I will request the Secretariat to inform on the content of the documents prepared for this item.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Sorry, having technical issues on my mic. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Working document 6/7 provides information on the status of implementation of decision 5/7 on artisanal and small-scale gold mining. The document includes progress made with respect to Article 7 notifications submitted to the Secretariat by those parties who have determined that artisanal and small-scale gold mining and processing in their territories in which mercury amalgamation is used is more than insignificant. As of 31 May 2025, 51 parties and 4 non-parties submitted such notifications. 35 parties and 2 non-parties have submitted national action plans to the Secretariat. Document 7 also includes an update on activities undertaken in response to paragraph 4 of decision MC 5/7 advancing implementation in the context of projects relating to biodiversity, land degradation, international waters and trade, and to continue to advance the implementation of national action plans through projects and programs. The addendum document to Document 7 includes proposed amended draft sections on the review of the implementation of Article 7 for inclusion in the guidance on developing a national action plan to reduce and, where feasible, eliminate mercury use in artisanal and small-scale gold mining, which is developed by the Secretariat. Finally, Information Document 11 was developed by the Secretariat in response to paragraph 7 of Decision MC 5/7 with the financial support from Australia and Norway. The document is a draft provisional guide on the effective engagement and participation of Indigenous peoples and of local communities in the development, implementation, and review of artisanal and small-scale gold mining national action plans. Annex 1 of the document sets out a draft for consideration by the, draft decision, for consideration by the Conference of the Parties. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. So I would like to invite interventions from the floor on the draft decision on artisanal and small-scale gold mining as contained in Document 7. We have also, for this agenda item, a CRP that has been introduced by Brazil. It is CRP 7. You'll find it on the in-session document tab. The floor is open for interventions on this draft decision and the CRP 7, and we will begin with Brazil.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brazil wishes to highlight the complexity and importance of developing a national action plan for the artisanal and small-scale gold mining sector, given the diversity of social, economic, and environmental contexts that characterize this activity in our country. Since 2022, Brazil has been implementing the project Gold Without Mercury, financed by the Global Environment Facility. As its first output, this project produced the study Overview of Artisanal and Small-Scale Gold Mining in Brazil, which offers a comprehensive diagnosis of the sector and outlines pathways toward legality, formalization, and sustainability. Based on this work, Brazil is now finalizing its National Action Plan, which includes measures for mercury reduction and elimination, formalization of the activity, and promotion of sustainable livelihoods. Beyond this, Brazil has undertaken a series of domestic actions to combat illegal gold mining and strengthen traceability. In 2023, the Federal Revenue Service of Brazil made the use of electronic invoices for gold transactions mandatory, allowing more effective auditing and integration of fiscal information. This year, Brazil's Supreme Federal Court ruled unanimously to confirm that buyers must prove the lawful origin of gold, creating a binding due diligence standard for intermediaries. At the same time, the National Mining Agency has just joined the Global Coalition for Action on ASGM, launched here in Geneva alongside the World Bank, the World Gold Council, and the Intergovernmental Forum on Mining, Minerals, Metals, and Sustainable Development, the IGF. Domestically, the National Agency on Mining of Brazil and the Central Bank strengthened financial controls, requiring the sector to adopt anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing policies, while the federal revenue intensified enforcement, leading to a significant drop in undeclared gold exports. Brazil has also carried out operations to protect indigenous territories from mercury contamination and illegal mining. Operation Munduruku dismantled illegal camps and cut supply routes, while coordinated actions in the Yanomami territory have reduced illegal mining by 98%, coupled with health and food programs that lowered malnutrition-related deaths by 68% between 2023 and 2025. In light of this comprehensive experience, Brazil has submitted the conference room paper number 7, proposing amendments to document 6/7. This CRP aims to strengthen the implementation of Article 7 by introducing measures to enhance traceability of gold, accountability of buyers and intermediaries, and support for a just transition for families dependent on ASGM, while recalling the need for financing from the GEF to support national action plans implementation, as per decision 5/7 of this Convention on ASGM. Brazil also wishes to emphasize that developing countries are those where ASGM activities are most prevalent, and therefore the burden of addressing the environmental, social, and economic consequences of mercury use falls disproportionately upon these countries. Yet, these same countries often face significant constraints in capacity, technology, and resources. Strengthened international cooperation, technical assistance, and financial support are essential to ensure that the transition to mercury-free ASGM is both effective and actable. Our proposal is fully consistent with paragraph 2 of Annex C of the Convention, which encourages strategies such as market-based mechanisms and mercury-free mining standards to achieve the objectives of Article 7. These approaches create positive economic incentives, attract responsible investment, and strengthen traceability and transparency, ensuring that the transition to mercury-free mining is just, sustainable, and socially inclusive. Finally, Brazil wishes to draw attention to the sharp increase in gold prices, which have risen from around 1,900 5 years ago to over 4,000 per ounce today, an increase of nearly 60% in just 12 months, for example. This surge intensifies economic pressures for informal and illegal mining and heightens the risks of mercury use and trafficking. Hence, Brazil believes CRP 7 represents a constructive and balanced contribution to the Minamata Convention by linking traceability, due diligence, and accountability with social protection, just transition, and international cooperation. We will listen carefully to interventions from the floor to better understand the way forward. And our initial suggestion would be to have the opportunity to discuss the CRP within a contact group. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Brazil. Colombia.
Hoy comparezco ante
Thank you very much, sir. I come from the heart of the Amazon in Colombia, and there we feel the impact of every international decision. We have communities, people, and human lives who depend upon the health of our rivers, our forests, and the soil all resources which we share. Since 2013, the use of mercury in mining and in industrial processes has been prohibited in Colombia, but in reality, we still face challenges in this respect. In the areas where illegal gold mining is going on, the activities have carried into the Amazon, threatening the most fundamental rights of our peoples who live in that biome and of the world as a whole. Indigenous peoples who have not yet been contacted by the outside world are trying to survive in that area. Just a few days ago, the Interior Ministry set out an early warning, an urgent warning for mercury contamination in the Rio Curi National Park, which includes lakes and rivers which we share with our sister country, Brazil. This alert isn't just another technical document, it's a red alert, a serious warning to us to protect the rivers of the Amazon and the rest of the world, and the safety and integrity of indigenous peoples who prefer to live without contact with the outside world. This is a moral call to protect the Amazonian ecosystem and the communities which live there in full compliance with what is stipulated in the Minamata Convention. We've issued this alert to the international community as well, so that it will recognize that mercury pollution isn't just an environmental problem. It's a human rights crisis at the same time. And with that end in mind, we urge the most industrialized nations in this world and international financial institutions to stand with us and to help us to work in a way that will enable us to have a greater impact on our goal of trying to eradicate mercury in all forms and in all those places where we live. We urge all states party to join us. And when I talk about eradicating mercury, we mean eradicating illegal trade in it and eliminating its use in artisanal gold mining. Only this way can we protect those of our communities who are living in our forests and trying to protect our forests. We're grateful to the Brazilian delegation for having submitted their CRP under this agenda item, and generally speaking, we support it. We believe it is essential that the discussion on this document be organized in a transparent and open-ended manner, and therefore we urge that it be discussed in detail in a contact group. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Colombia. I give the floor to Indonesia.
Mr. President, distinguished delegates, we express our gratitude to the Secretariat for its continued support in facilitating global efforts to address mercury-related challenges. Indonesia is pleased to confirm that in 2023, we successfully completed and submitted our National Action Plan, or NAP, on ASGM to the Secretariat, in accordance with the Convention requirements. Furthermore, Indonesia has institutionalized its commitment to mercury reduction and elimination through Presidential Regulation number 21 of 2019, which establishes the NAP for mercury reduction and elimination. This framework mandates annual evaluation and reports to the President, ensuring sustained progress and accountability. Currently, Indonesia is actively engaged in the implementation and review of the NAP, with a particular focus on monitoring progress in the ISGM sector, which remains a priority for our national effort. To further strengthen this effort, in 2025, the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources established a new Directorate General dedicated to addressing illegal mining activities nationwide. This initiative underscores Indonesia's broader commitment to advancing sustainable and responsible practices in the ASGM sector. We are committed to sharing the outcomes of this implementation with the Secretariat, contributing the collective knowledge and progress under the Minamata Convention. Indonesia supports the draft decision 6 of 7 and looks forward to working closely with all parties and stakeholders to keep advancing the convention implementation and to encourage more sustainable and responsible practices in ASGM and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia. The European Union has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The European Union and its member states would like to thank the Secretariat for preparing the draft decision on artisanal and small-scale gold mining, and would like to highlight the importance of addressing the use of mercury in the activities of artisanal and small-scale gold mining to reduce impact on human health, land, ecosystems, and biodiversity. Mercury use in artisanal and small-scale gold mining is still ongoing, and this use remains the largest source of global mercury emissions, calling for further efforts to significantly reduce mercury use in this sector. The European Union and its member states appreciate the efforts made by the Minamata Secretariat to raise awareness regarding the importance of action to address mercury use in artisanal small-scale gold mining and support parties in the preparation of the national action plans. We also appreciate the efforts of parties to develop, submit, and implement their final national action plans. We recognize the challenges in providing a review of the national action plan every 3 years. We therefore welcome and support the proposal to include a new section on review of the national action plan in the guidance document. The European Union and its member states also welcome the provisional guide on the effective engagement and participation of indigenous peoples and local communities and other stakeholders in the review process. We welcome the draft CRP from Brazil, but would like to express some concerns with some of the paragraphs suggested. Thank you.
Thank you, the European Union. Ecuador tiene la palabra.
Ecuador, please. Thank you, sir. Ecuador has the honor of making this statement on behalf of Bolivia, Colombia, and Peru, and indeed the relevant body within the Andean community. On this issue of artisanal and small-scale gold mining, we support the implementation of the measures which are listed under Article 7 of the Convention, aimed at reducing and, when possible, eliminating the use of mercury and mercury compounds from these activities, therefore avoiding releases from mercury used in these processes into the environment. We believe it essential to step up cooperation between the parties and intergovernmental organizations, as well as other relevant bodies, so as to achieve the goals set forth in the article. Furthermore, we believe that taking preventive action would be helpful too, because it would inter alia provide us further information on illicit trade in mercury. Increasing cooperation would also lead to develop strategies on the promotion of research into sustainable alternatives in education, in the provision of technical and financial assistance, and an exchange of information. All that would help us to better achieve the goals of the Convention in respect of this issue and help us to deal with the problems of criminality and other types of abuse which accompany artisanal and small-scale gold mining. We are grateful to Brazil for their CRP and will be happy to discuss it constructively wherever it is discussed, whether it's discussed here or whether it's discussed in a contact group. Thank you. Thank you, Ecuador.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The Philippines would like to thank the Secretariat for the preparation of all the documents on artisanal small-scale gold mining. Currently, the Philippines is developing its National Action Plan and is expected to be able to submit this in 2027. We believe that addressing the phase-out of mercury in the ASGM sector is largely linked to the illegal trade of mercury. Although legislative controls are in place to regulate the importation, distribution, and use of mercury in the country, we are still faced with challenges on border control and illegal entry, and lately on online trading of mercury. The solution to the illegal trade problem is beyond local regulations, but a global action on mercury distribution. We call on the parties to strengthen control on illegal trade of mercury, We support the Convention's proposed actions on the use of mercury in the ASGM sector. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. To the Philippines, Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Pakistan, mercury use in ASGM sector and over 500 households are associated and residing in northern areas of the country. In these areas, we observe mercury contamination and their associated health impacts. Pakistan is set to launch a project on ASGM in December 2025. Pakistan received the financial authorization from UNEP and soon we will start the project. Our efforts will be focused on bringing gold miners of that area into the formal economy through environmental sound manner practices. Continuous financial and technical support is important for developing countries like Pakistan. The project is aimed to eliminating socioeconomic risks associated with the ASGM and mitigating the negative impact. Once again, Pakistan is fully committed for effective implementation of the convention, and we appreciate the Brazil CRP. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chairman, these are your interpreters. Would it be possible for people to speak a little more slowly, please? Thank you.
We have Suriname.
Thank you, Mr. President. Suriname does not have primary mercury mining. Our challenges stems entirely from the transboundary, illicit, and unmanaged import and trade of elemental mercury. This illicit trade directly fuels environmental degradation and public health risk, undermining the objectives of our National Action Plan for the artisanal and small-scale gold mining sector. Under the leadership of the Ministry of Natural Resources and the National Environmental Authority, Suriname's national policy on phasing out mercury is focused on gain control over the mercury supply chain through formalization and stringent enforcement. Our policy recognizes that ASGM is not only a technical or environmental issue, but a profound socio-economic one. It provides livelihoods for tens of thousands of people. Therefore, a simple ban is neither feasible nor just. Our strategy adopts a dual-track approach: immediate formalization and reduction of mercury use, and a long-term just transition toward a sustainable and inclusive alternative economy. As a party now entering the challenging phase of implementation and transition, Suriname's position is to ensure that the global framework fully appreciates the true scale and complexity of this challenge. We have met our first obligation by submitting our National Action Plan, and our national institutions are now leading its implementation. We therefore support the new guidance on implementation reviews under Article 7, Paragraph 3C, and fully endorse the guide on engaging indigenous and tribal people, which is particularly relevant in our national context. However, Mr. President, we must be candid. A National Action Plan alone will not resolve this issue. At its core, this is about people and livelihoods. Transitioning the ASGM sector means not merely stopping an activity, it means starting a new sustainable economy. Our green development strategy clearly shows that just a transition for the ASGM sector requires sustained and long-term investment. This is not limited to financing mercury-free technologies. It also demands seed capital to build a sustainable bioeconomy that can generate alternative livelihoods and shared prosperity. Therefore, we call upon the Conference of Parties to recognize the true cost of this transition and to establish a new scale of partnership and financing under Article 13, one that moves beyond short-term projects and support genuine national transformation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Suriname. To the next speakers, I wonder if I could ask you to be kind enough to speak a little more slowly and articulate a little more, which would be very helpful to the interpreters in trying to give a faithful rendering of what you're saying. Some of these shorter statements have been very, very rapid, and people who need the interpretation need to have interpretation which is a faithful rendering of what you're trying to say. Thank you very much.
Estados Unidos, Mexico.
Having said that, Mexico. Go ahead, please.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Mexico acknowledges the importance of observing Article 7 on artisan and small-scale gold mining. We'd like to say that as far as we're concerned, it will be complicated to eliminate gold mining entirely. We urge parties to continue with their efforts to regulate the artisanal and small-scale gold mining sector because we think that would be more effective. We support the Brazilian proposal and recognize how important it is for local communities and indigenous people to participate and to have their views expressed. Subsequent discussions on this issue, in our opinion, would seem to be especially useful if it takes into account digital traceability and sourcing systems, which would help us to know where the mercury is coming from and better combat illicit trade. Thank you. Thank you, Mexico. Saudi Arabia, please.
Your Excellency, the President, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would like to express its appreciation of the efforts undertaken by the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention and the international community with regard to the preparation of documents on the review of Article 7 of the Minamata Convention on Mercury with regard to ASGM. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia reaffirms that the sector of ASGM is not implemented on its territory, especially the use of mercury in the extraction of gold. The government has implemented important and strong legislation to combat the illegal extraction of gold or other minerals. This is based on its commitment to the protection of the health of human beings and the environment, and in implementing its policies with regard to the limiting the use or ending the use of mercury in this highly dangerous sector. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia reiterates its full support for the international efforts aimed at minimizing the use of mercury in gold extraction and promoting the participation of indigenous peoples and local communities in the review of national action plans, and the contribution to capacity building and adopting sustainable practices. In conclusion, the KSA reiterates its full support to the Minamata Convention and its willingness to cooperate with all parties to achieve its objectives towards a world that is free of mercury pollution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much to Saudi Arabia. The United Kingdom has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The UK would like to express our appreciation to the Secretariat and to parties for their work on reducing and eliminating the use of mercury in artisanal and small-scale gold mining, which is vital in order to meet the objectives of the Minamata Convention. We would like to further thank Brazil for their conference room paper. The UK recognises the importance of due diligence and transparency in gold supply chains. However, we think that further discussion, as suggested by Brazil, would be particularly beneficial on this conference room paper and the suggestions within it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, the UK. The United States of America this time.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the clarification. And I will try to be kind to our hardworking interpreters. Artisanal and small-scale gold mining is the largest source of mercury emissions, and addressing the sector is crucial to the success of the Minamata Convention. ASGM using mercury causes extensive environmental damage, both locally and due to the global transport of mercury, leads to elevated mercury levels around the world. In addition, ASGM can contribute significantly to illegal trade in mercury and is a key driver of the continued operation of primary mercury mines. Illicit gold from ASGM also provides financial support to malign actors such as transnational criminal organizations and terrorist organizations. The connections to those bad actors, the often informal nature of the sector, and the complex legal and illegal supply chains of mercury and gold make this a challenging sector to address. Recognizing these challenges, the United States welcomes the adoption of updates to the guidance on the national action plans laid out in document MC COP 6/7/Addendum 1. And thanks to the Secretariat for its work preparing these updates. We're also broadly supportive of the rest of the draft decision in document COP.6/7, though we do think some small text clarifications regarding reporting, taking stock of the National Action Plan reports is needed. We'd also like to thank Brazil for their CRP, which offers some additions to this draft decision. The points Brazil raises in CRP 7 regarding the gold supply chain, including traceability, due diligence, and verification of origins, can play an important role in addressing mercury pollution related to ASGM, and the United States is supportive of many of these efforts. However, we do have some concerns that much of the language proposed by Brazil goes well beyond reviewing the implementation of Article 7 of the Convention, and indeed even beyond the scope of the Convention. We believe it is important for parties to the Minamata Convention to develop a better understanding of how measures related to the gold trade can support Minamata Convention implementation, but we don't believe we would be ready to endorse specific trade-related measures outside of the scope of the Convention. We believe it is important for parties to adopt the updated National Action Plan guidance at this meeting, so we look forward to working with other parties on the way forward on a decision on ASGM. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, the United States. Next is Sierra Leone.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the African region, we would like to thank the Secretariat for developing this draft decision. We consider including in the draft decision MC6 under review, draft new text, which will be submitted to Secretariat. The African region is in full support of the CRP submitted by Brazil, and we are open for discussion constructive discussion in the contact group. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Sierra Leone. On behalf of the Africa group, or the Africa region, rather, Canada has the floor.
Thank you, President. Canada, first of all, would like to thank the Secretariat for preparing this draft decision and to thank Brazil for their effort and initiative in proposing this CRP. While ASGM using mercury does not occur in Canada, we do recognize the extreme complexity and ongoing challenges that parties face in making efforts to address this largest source of global mercury emissions. Canada would therefore like to work with Brazil and other interested parties to propose some specific comments and edits to this text to improve its clarity and accuracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Canada, for the intervention and for the pace of you gave that intervention. Uganda has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving Uganda the floor. Uganda aligns with the position of Africa as presented by Sierra Leone regarding the implementation of Article 7 on developing national action plans to reduce and, where feasible, eliminate mercury use in artisanal and small-scale gold mining. Mr. President, Uganda appreciates the Secretariat and parties and recognizes the efforts towards the implementation of the national action plans. Uganda developed its national action plan and has taken meaningful steps in implementing it and is looking forward to the review of the implementation. Uganda has made important strides towards the reduction and elimination of the use of mercury in artisanal and small-scale mining, while protecting livelihoods. Regulatory frameworks banning mercury use in mining have been formed. Formalization of artisanal and small-scale mining. Efforts have also been made towards transition and introduction of mercury-free technologies awareness of the health and environmental risks, and alternative available technologies. Access to finance. Bank of Uganda is providing incentives and competitive price for artisanal and small-scale miners who implement best practices and mercury-free gold mining. And these efforts towards the mineral markets and buying centers. We also appreciate support from the various partners like the Planet Gold, the Global Environment Facility, UNEP, GIZ, that have supported Uganda in these strides. Mr. President, Uganda is in agreement with the suggested sections and amendments to the National Action Plans, and thanks the Secretariat for providing guidance in the draft decision, but calls for emphasis on acceleration of formalization of artisanal and small-scale mining sector, strengthening of enforcement and monitoring of mercury bans, promoting and subsidizing mercury-free technologies, improving health and environmental safeguards, enhancing traceability and responsible gold chains, awareness raising and stakeholder engagement, reporting, capacity building and institutional strengthening, promotion of common user facilities for gold processing. Uganda welcomes the guidance note on the engagement of the indigenous people and local communities. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Uganda. Zambia has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Zambian delegation thanks the Secretariat for the preparation of documents on artisanal and small-scale gold mining and for its continued support in advancing the implementation of the Minamata Convention. Zambia supports the statement made by Sierra Leone on behalf of the African region. Mr. President, artisanal and small-scale gold mining remains an important livelihood source for many rural communities in Zambia. However, the use of mercury in gold processing poses serious risks to human health and the environment through pollution of the water bodies that are used as sources for drinking water and crop production. Thus, in response to the imminent threat of mercury pollution, Zambia is implementing its National Action Plan on ASGM through the Planet Gold project. This project promotes mercury-free gold processing methods, promoting formalization of the sector and improved access to financing. Awareness and training programs have also been conducted to build the capacity of miners and promote safer practices. Despite this progress, challenges remain, particularly limited access to technology, financial resources, technical capacity, and therefore Zambia calls for enhanced international cooperation, technology transfer, and financial support to accelerate the transition to mercury-free mining. Mr. President, we stand ready to discuss this matter in the contact group should it be established. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Zambia. Botswana.
Mr. President, since Botswana is speaking for the first time, allow me to express our sincere gratitude to the government and people of Switzerland for hosting this important meeting, and to the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention for the excellent preparations and tireless efforts in facilitating our work. Mr. President, Botswana aligns herself with the statement delivered by the African region on ASGM. Botswana supports decision UNEP/MC/COP67, in which countries are urged to develop national action plans for the management of artisanal and small-scale gold mining. According to Article 7, Clause 3 of the Minamata Convention on Mercury, text and annexes, Botswana notified the Minamata Secretariat of the need for the management of ASGM in Botswana in December 2024. To this end, Botswana has signed a JEF project endorsement letter for the development of a national action plan for the management of artisanal and small-scale gold mining. The project is set to begin in January 2026 and shall cover the development of the National Action Plan, national consultations, training, the development of a gender strategy, and awareness raising. Botswana remains committed to the intents of the Minamata Convention on Mercury and to make Mercury history. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Botswana, for that intervention. That's the last intervention I have from parties. No. One just came in, and that will be the last one, Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me opportunity, and I apologize for just making this call. Nigeria acknowledge and appreciate the efforts of the Secretariat and work done so far in the implementation of Article 7 of the Convention. We believe that the implementation of Article 7 of Minamata Convention on Mercury artisanal and small-scale gold mining is key to achieving the objective of the Convention and also imperative to contributing to the goals and targets of coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. We know the importance of the effective engagement and participation of the indigenous people, local communities, and other stakeholders in the development and implementation of the National Action Plan on ASGM, and the need to prepare a supplemental section for it in the guidance document on developing a National Action Plan to reduce and, where feasible, eliminate mercury use in artisanal and small-scale gold mining. Nigeria has developed a National Action Plan to reduce and, where feasible, eliminate mercury use in ASGM, which was concluded, submitted to the Secretariat, and officially presented to the public in May 2021. Special thanks to the Global Environment Facility and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. We are currently executing the JEF-funded Planet Gold program with the support of UNIDO. We are also pleased to be part of the ongoing proposed development of the review of implementation of Article 7 RIA by UNEP and UNIDO. Nigeria therefore supports the adoption to adopt the draft decision in annex of the document. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nigeria. So that is the end of the interventions by parties, and now we'll go to observers. The first to have the floor is the UN Special Rapporteur on Toxics and Human Rights.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, sir. The Special Rapporteur from the United Nations on Toxic Substances and Human Rights, and as representative of a special procedure under the Human Rights Council, has continued to monitor and report on the negative impact and the damage to land done by small-scale gold mining. For indigenous peoples, riparian communities, and poor miners, the use of mercury in this type of mining is a daily attack on their physical health. In the course of my mandate, I've had the opportunity to see the negative impact of mercury during official visits, during trials, and I've reflected them in my reports on indigenous people and toxic substances and on the issue of gender and toxic substances. Both of those have been submitted to the United Nations General Assembly. I've also sent communications to member states highlighting the lack of due diligence carried out on the traceability of the gold which they import. gold tarnished by the human rights violations associated with the use of mercury during extraction practices should have no place on international markets. Lastly, in regional meetings held in the run-up to this Conference of the Parties, I've been emphasizing the appeal to parties to consider an amendment to Article 2 of the Convention. This allows the use of mercury in small-scale gold mining at the moment, and this needs to change in order to bring an end to the appalling human rights violations associated with the use of mercury in gold mining, so as to ensure the full effectiveness of the Minamata Convention. Thank you. Thank you very much to the Special Rapporteur for that contribution.
Children and Youth International.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving me the floor. My name is Diana Tapia. I am an indigenous girl from the Pasto people, and I'm speaking for the Youth Platform on Chemical Substances and Waste and for the Global Caucasus of Indigenous Youth. The Youth Platform is the biggest global network we have. It involves over 3,000 children, young people, and organizations led by us. It focuses on policies and action related to chemical substances, waste, and associated pollution. The Global Caucasus is made up from indigenous young people from our 7 regions, and we meet annually in the Standing Group of the United Nations on Indigenous Peoples. On the issue of national plans of action under Article 7, we're concerned that many states party still actually haven't made any. Children and young people, who are some of the most affected by exposure to mercury in mining communities, are not often consulted when plans are drawn up either. We urge states party to speed up the submission of their national action plans and to ensure that when these are drawn up, they are drawn up through inclusive processes which allow everyone to participate, including indigenous peoples, children, young people, and other rights holders. We also need to highlight that between 4 and 5 million women and children work in artisanal and small-scale gold mining across the world, and almost all the national action plans presented acknowledge the fact that children are working in those industries in their countries. However, having said that, the risks which the children and young people run in those circumstances are usually overlooked and not gone into in detail. We urge more awareness building and urge that capacity building programs continue in the intersessional period in respect to implementation of Articles 7 and 16, the latter concerning the impact on health. These activities should provide guidance to states parties on how to tackle hazardous child labor as part of their action programs. Exposure to mercury for young people and children working in the industry needs to be sharply reduced, and children and young people and their representatives need to be fully consulted in the working groups which develop national action plans. When those consultations are held, they need to be held in a culturally appropriate manner, and accessible and appropriate health services also need to be provided to indigenous children and young people affected by exposure to mercury. Lastly, in order to reduce the threat of increased abuse against and human rights violations of these young people and further deterioration of health conditions and the environment, we need to look at the problem of violence and displacement which is occurring as the result of the use of mercury. We need to close the loopholes which exist in the current convention's framework, and in order to do this, we want to stop the way it invariably and involuntarily benefits mining and illegal traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm speaking on behalf of the Women's Caucus for Minamata on Mercury. I'm honored to deliver the first ever Women's Caucus statement for the Minamata Convention at this COP6. This milestone is a recognition of the vital role that gender equality and women's rights must play in achieving the Convention's objectives, and it is a moment to be celebrated. In COP decisions, including Decision 5/15, parties adopted the Gender Action Plan for the Minamata Convention, recognizing the importance of integrating gender considerations into all aspects of implementation. Included in the GAP, in the section of goals for parties and other stakeholders, specific goals, activities, and indicators are identified to bring gender into the development implementation of ASGM NAPs. Further, in INF 11, acknowledges and recognizes that ASGM communities, women likely have specific gender-segregated roles and work, and therefore experience the negative impacts of mercury use differently than men. Globally, an estimated 15 million people directly and indirectly engage in ASGM. Approximately 5 million are women and children. In this consideration, we would request the parties to consider including references to Decision 515, in which it welcomes the Gender Action Plan of the Minamata Convention on Mercury and requests for the review, the integration of gender into ASGM national action plans and reports on the progress made in meeting obligations under Article 7. Systematic gender inequalities hinder women's ability to realize their right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. Recognizing their contributions, safeguarding their rights, and addressing gender-specific risks are fundamental to achievement of the Convention's objectives. We have submitted our recommendations and statement in full to be uploaded online and hope that our recommendations can be considered by the parties. In closing, we would like to thank the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention, the Bureau, and parties for the recognition and a seat at this negotiation table, and for the support and patience for making this vision a reality. We are here, listening and ready to engage fully, meaningfully, and effectively. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Zero Mercury.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Joshua Florenzo from Bantoxics Philippines, speaking on behalf of the Zero Mercury Working Group. Distinguished delegates, ASGM continues to be the largest anthropogenic source of mercury use, emissions, and releases globally. Mercury use in ASGM remains widespread, even in countries such as Uganda, South Africa, Kenya, and the Philippines, where it is illegal. In the Philippines, miners are forced to use mercury by gold traders who supply them with mercury in exchange for buying their gold. Increasing gold prices are driving the expansion of illegal ASGM in areas such as South America and the Amazon. In Southeast Asia, the advent of online selling platforms, decreasing mercury prices, and the strong mercury black market interlinked across countries poses more challenges for governments. In response, we call on parties and non-parties with more than insignificant ASGM and mercury processing activities to submit their national action plans if they have not done so. These plans should provide a just transition framework that protects miners from abuse and exploitation, promotes decent work, and provides institutional support for their transition to mercury-free mining. Likewise, parties and non-parties who submitted national action plans are reminded of their obligations to provide reviews of the progress made in implementing Article 7 obligations and to include such reviews and reports submitted under Article 21. As also mentioned earlier, the ZMWG further recommends that COP6 establish an intersessional, open-ended expert group charged with making recommendations to COP7 on accelerating the closure of primary mines, eliminating loopholes in the convention that benefit traffickers and illegal gold miners, improve reporting on mercury trade, and identify enhanced enforcement measures necessary to eliminate the illegal production, trade, and use of mercury in ASGM. Thank you.
Thank you very much. IPEN International.
Thank you, Mr. President. Issues raised in the meeting document number 7 on ASGM include progress on reporting under Article 7, completion rates of national action plans, various projects implemented since COP5, and new measures for indigenous peoples' engagement in developing NAPs. The document acknowledges that ASGM remains the primary source of mercury pollution globally and notes that 51 parties and 4 non-parties have notified the Secretariat of their significant ASGM activities. It is time to amend ASGM as a sector that is not allowed to use mercury by the Minamata Convention. IPEN calls this treaty to establish a phase-out date by 2032, after which the Convention will no longer tolerate mercury use in SGM. IPEN also invites parties to consider the amendment of the Convention related to SGM covered in Article 2, 7, 12, and Annex C. Even before the Convention's negotiations began, UN agencies and donors had already supported many ASGM countries in moving away from mercury, including assisting countries in reviewing and revising their regulatory frameworks. However, massive mercury is still used in ASGM areas in Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. Furthermore, known volumes of mercury used in ASGM annually over the last 5 years remain unchanged. The mercury sources from ASGM came from legally traded mercury, smuggled mercury, and cinnabar conversion from primary mercury mines in party and non-party countries. The illicit economy of mercury and gold sectors is substantial and prominently involves several major gold trade hub countries. When parties propose the tracking and traceability of gold, it should also apply to mercury. As long as SGM is an allowed use sector under Article 2, the Convention signals that gold extraction is more important than human rights, and that it's not possible to extract gold without mercury. Furthermore, we recognize that over 60 countries with SGM has areas potentially qualified to be identified as mercury-contaminated areas. 60 years ago, severe mercury pollution only occurred in one country. Now we are witnessing it's happening in more than 60 countries. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I see Col Nodo.
Thank you very much, President. I'm speaking on behalf of the Colnodo Association in Colombia. This is a civil society organization which is part of IPEN. We're grateful to the agencies of the United Nations for their efforts to strengthen institutions and eliminate the use of mercury in our region. Over recent years, Colombia has invested in the reduction of mercury in small-scale and artisanal gold mining. However, the latest report of the Procurator's Office indicates that the use of mercury in the country has not dropped, and that despite the fact that it's been prohibited in mining since 2018. Experience has shown us that mercury is not the only problem in small-scale and artisanal gold mining. The real problem lies in the price of gold set by the markets. What we need is better traceability to determine whether or not the gold that's been mined and which is being marketed on global markets was not attained by using mercury. If we're going to be able to do this, we need support from gold traders around the world. We need to work on looking in a more integrated way at small-scale and artisanal gold mining from the social, political, and technical points of view. This way we can reduce social conflicts and environmental problems in the sector. We need to urge gold traders to agree to the concept of a digital passport. We have sufficient information to get such a system up and running. It will protect local communities around the world who live in mining areas by creating fair and clean trade in gold. Prohibiting trade in mercury and its use in gold mining through amendments to the Convention should, in our opinion, be a priority. It would reduce the impact on the environment and protect the 16 million small-scale gold miners whose human rights have been affected and nay violated by this situation. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next speaker is the Environmental Research Organization.
President, it's time for parties to confront unresolved contradictions at the heart of the Convention's implementation and design, if its objectives are to be realized. The continued classification of ASGM as an allowed use for mercury under Article 2 has become a persistent loophole, facilitating large-scale mercury trafficking and use. According to multiple investigations, the use of mercury in ASGM has catalyzed convergent crimes, including weapon, drug, and human trafficking. By removing ASGM from the list of allowed use, parties will gain a clear legal mandate to interdict mercury shipment linked to illegal mining, mobilize customs and financial intelligence units, and integrate mercury trafficking into broader anti-smuggling and anti-organized crime framework. This would align mercury enforcement with existing gold, trade, and money laundering controls, enabling coordinated prosecution of both commodities within the same criminal supply chain. For this reason, we invite parties to consider, prioritize, and collaborate on the phasing out of mercury in ASGM by 2032. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, EIA. Tiene la palabra la...
I now call on the Autonomous University of Querétaro. Thank you, Chairman, for giving us the floor. My name is Isabel Rosilla Pantoja from the Autonomous University in Querétaro. We have been working for 12 years with small-scale and artisanal gold miners. Many people have said that the convention is greatly challenged by this situation, but what we wonder is why nothing has been done about it. Our experience of work in the field shows us that small-scale and gold mining is a problem, but it's not only in Mexico and in a few other countries who are states party to this convention. The situation today has shown that this isn't just a problem of a handful of countries. It's a problem which is emerging and developing because, apart from anything else, we have people who are being displaced from their land by force. We have indigenous peoples who are engaging in small-scale and artisanal gold mining using mercury because they have no alternative. And we have families which are trying to mine mercury because of the increasing demand for it, including international demand for it. Small-scale mining of this kind is not a problem in Mexico or a handful of countries. I repeat, it's a problem in many other Latin American countries and in the Caribbean. The mines in Mexico only gave the miners involved about $10 to $20 a day. Now, as a result of global migration, we're seeing the human rights and cultural rights of indigenous peoples violated not only in Mexico and Latin America, but much further beyond the borders of the region. We know this because we've been working in the field and seeing the problems for years. We are convinced that there is a need for amendment to the principle of equality and non-discrimination in the Convention because any country which reports the use of mercury in small-scale and artisanal gold mining does so through a plan of action which is supposed to take into account the need to protect the rights of children, women, and indigenous peoples. What people don't refer to, unfortunately, is the criminality involved in the use and production of mercury. When they do, they suggest that all mines are taken over by criminals. That's not the case. Often we're talking about families where fathers, grandfathers, and great-grandfathers have been using and mining mercury. Perhaps very briefly, I can read to you a message that miners have sent to you. It's written by Carlo Raul Martinez, a representative of indigenous groups, and Francisco Gatos from San Joaquin. I quote, "We agree to all countries who have become states party to the Minamata Convention, and we would like to say to you, we are not criminals. We are working people who for many generations have seen our fathers, grandfathers, and great-grandfathers transmitting to us the knowledge of mining and how to engage in it and do so with pride. This is something we have inherited, but now we're being accused of being criminals for our activity, and that around the world. So we urge you, what is life actually worth under the Minamata Convention? How many more of us have to die before our interests and needs are reflected in your agreement? At the moment, we're being left behind, we're being forgotten, and we're being abandoned. We have indigenous peoples having to flee their land who need your protection. So please, could you amend the convention so that it helps us to move into other kinds of activity on the basis of which we can feed our families? We want to stop what we're doing now, but while we can't, at least stop calling us criminals for doing it. In conclusion, and just to give you a little bit more context, you've been talking about the health of small-scale gold miners, but what about those who are mining the mercury which is used by the small-scale gold miners? There are limits on the amount of mercury which is supposed to be contained in what is mined, but there are figures for the amount that's supposed to or not supposed to be released in the air as well. And unfortunately, we've learned that when these amounts are not observed, then the cleanness and safety of our air cannot be guaranteed, either convention or not. The state of Querétaro does not want to be the world's next Minamata. We realize that we need a transition away from this work, but we need it with social justice, social support, and the kind of protection which does not leave miners well and truly outside the benefits of whatever you do under your convention. Thank you.
Tenemos ahora al...
Thank you for your statement. I now have the Center for Climate Crime Analysis. Go ahead, please.
All the authorities, delegates, and colleagues present. In the Amazon, mercury does not only contaminate rivers, it poisons bodies, lands, and entire communities. Only with transparency, integrated data, and effective control, we can move towards its real elimination and protect the ecosystems and future generations. At the Center for Climate Crime Analysis, we combine the power of law and data science to uncover the links between environmental crimes and the legal flows that sustain them. I would like to share our experience in Peru, a country where ASGM is one of the main sources of mercury pollution. Based on a pilot study on illegal gold mining, we developed a comprehensive traceability methodology for the gold supply chain that includes mining inputs such as mercury, fuel, and heavy machinery. When we cross-checked public information, we found a concerning reality. Databases do not communicate with each other. Records are isolated, and a lot of information is not publicly available. We are working with public authorities, local NGOs, to share findings and build capacity, because in the current context, public institutions cannot know whether actors authorized to use mercury actually hold mining rights or gold processing plants. How much gold is produced with the mercury authorized, or whether mercury not used could be diverted into the illegal market. However, traceability analysis conducted reveal risk patterns that should raise concern. For example, mercury use registered as small producers who imported more than $500,000 in heavy machinery from Europe just in 1 year. Users involved in mining activities with considerable amount of mercury authorized, who have not reported a single gram of gold produced. Users of mercury who own processing plants, mining rights, transport companies under the label of small producers. These findings show that oversight and traceability of mining inputs are key. The goal must be the elimination of mercury use in ASGM, but in the meantime, we must also strengthen mercury monitoring and demand stronger compliance. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And that concludes the intervention under this agenda item. So going back to the agenda item in question, we have two documents. We have the decision prepared by the Secretariat in document 6/7. And we also have a CRP submitted by Brazil in CRP 7. So what I heard from you in the interventions a while ago, I might add, is that first, the proponent of the CRP asked for a contact group to be established, and then we had one region also requesting for a group to be established. I didn't see a lot of pushback on any of these documents, but certainly having one region and the proponent, I would like to propose to you that we established a contact group to consider and conclude on the draft decision in CRP 7 submitted by Brazil, taking into account everything we heard in this plenary this afternoon. We will call this group the Contact Group on Artisanal and Small-Scale Gold Mining. And the mandate for this group would be as follows. Further develop a CRP with a draft decision to consider and conclude on CRP 7 by Brazil, taking into account the inputs from plenary this afternoon. We will ask the contact group to start its work tomorrow. The Conference of the Parties is now entering in decision-making mode, so I will ask our usual question. Are there any objections to this proposal to establish a contact group on artisanal and small-scale gold mining with the mandate that I have outlined before? Seeing no objection, it is so decided. Because we were not, or I was not anticipating that we were going to have a contact group, I haven't consulted with my fellow Bureau members on possible co-chairs for this group. So tomorrow morning at the Bureau meeting at 8 o'clock, we will discuss this particular contact group and the need to look for co-chairs. We will come back to you with a proposal, and then we will set a time for the group to begin its work. Are there any objections to proceed in such a way? Thank you very much. We will now move on to agenda item 4D. 4D is Mercury waste, and I would like to invite the Secretariat to introduce the relevant documents to this agenda item.
Thank you, President. I am now introducing document 8 and INF 12. Decision MC5/10 established the threshold for waste contaminated with mercury and decided to revisit the mercury waste threshold at COP7. Decision MC5/10 also invited parties to submit information regarding waste management regulations and programs as Article 11, paragraph 3A says that there are these are to be considered in establishing requirements for environmentally sound management of mercury waste. Information was submitted by 8 parties and is compiled in INF 12. Document 8 contains information submitted in the past 3 national reports pursuant to Article 21 on facilities for the final disposal of waste consisting of mercury and mercury compounds. The Implementation and Compliance Committee reviewed the information and encouraged parties to further elaborate as appropriate on final disposal methods in their second full national reports to be submitted by 31st December this year. Furthermore, Document 8 mentions that Basel Convention COP17 decided to update the technical guidelines on the environmentally sound management of mercury waste in order to reflect adjustments consequential to the establishment of the threshold for mercury waste by decision MC5/10. Therefore, the COP is to consider action on the development of the requirements for environmentally sound management of mercury waste pursuant to paragraph 3A of Article 11, a process to prepare for the review of the mercury waste threshold pursuant to paragraph 5 and 8 of decision MC5/10, and actions in response to the decision of the competent parties to the Basel Convention to update the technical guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaku. So now I would like to invite interventions from the floor. Parties first, as usual. We have CRP 3 from Australia and Japan. So we would like to give the floor to the proponents. Japan has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Japan welcomes the establishment of the threshold for waste contaminated with mercury as decided at COP5 after many years of intensive discussions. We are firmly committed to its implementation to ensure the environmentally sound management of mercury waste. Now that thresholds have been agreed upon for all categories of mercury waste, it is important to maintain momentum and move forward with developing specific requirements for the proper management of such waste. In this regard, Japan has submitted a conference room paper co-sponsored by Australia and additionally by Norway, even though not reflected in it, which includes a draft decision aimed at accelerating the development of the requirements for the sound management of mercury wastes as mandated in subparagraph 3A of Article 11. Specifically, this draft decision proposes that the COP invite parties to submit proposals for these requirements, taking into account parties' waste management regulations and programs for future consideration by the COP. The intention is that such requirements could be considered by the COP at a later date for potential inclusion in additional annex, consistent with the mandate provided in paragraph 3A of Article 11. The draft decision also sets out a process for following up on previous COP decisions by inviting the submission of information on a number of complementary items. This includes submissions on the effectiveness of the agreed threshold for waste contaminated with mercury, documented waste management measures and their effectiveness for parties applying the alternative appropriate to the established waste threshold, and any necessary updates to the list of mercury waste adopted at COP3. Japan stands ready to provide further explanations and to engage in detailed discussions on this conference paper in the contact group, informal group, or any other appropriate format as necessary. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Japan, Australia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Australia thanks Japan for their leadership on this important issue as outlined in CRP3, and we are pleased to co-sponsor this paper alongside Norway. Australia places high importance on the environmentally sound management of mercury wastes to ensure that measures are effective, practical and scientifically grounded. We echo Japan's call to maintain momentum on this important issue following the decision at COP5 to develop a threshold for what defines mercury wastes. Maintaining momentum will help ensure that the important work of the Convention remains focused on progress and outcomes and does not stagnate. We join Japan and Norway in inviting parties to submit proposals on potential requirements for the sound management of mercury wastes as outlined in CRP3. Australia sees this call for submissions as an opportunity for parties to consider requirements that are simple, clear, useful and accessible. As we will hear later this week under Agenda Item 5, international cooperation and coordination with other multilateral fora is important to further the objectives and implementation of the Minamata Convention. Australia supports such international cooperation, particularly where efforts are complementary. In this spirit, Australia would encourage parties to consider requirements for the sound management of mercury wastes that complement but don't duplicate the associated Basel Convention technical guidelines. Australia also stands ready with Japan to provide further explanation and to engage in discussions on this CRP through informal discussions or any other appropriate format as necessary. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Australia, the European Union.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regarding the actions proposed on mercury waste, the European Union and its member states would like to express support for the following initiatives. First, we endorse intersessional work between COP6 and COP7 to explore requirements for environmentally sound management options for mercury waste. We emphasize the importance of understanding the relationship between the Basel Convention guidelines and the new requirements under the Minamata Convention, as the previous speaker has just referred to. Second, in the review of mercury waste thresholds, we support the gathering of scientific and regulatory data to assess the effectiveness of current thresholds. We advocate for reports to be prepared for consideration at COP7, ensuring updates to the decision on mercury waste thresholds. Third, we welcome cooperative actions with the Basel Convention to update the Basel Convention technical guidelines on the environmental sound management of waste, consisting of elemental mercury and waste containing or contaminated with mercury. While avoiding reopening core discussions, we fully support collaboration between the Basel and the Minamata Convention Secretariats to incorporate the decision on the establishment of mercury waste thresholds appropriately in the updated guidelines. The European Union and its member states would like to thank Japan and support Japan's CRP as further supported by Australia and Norway, containing a proposal on advancing work on mercury waste management, and we fully support setting up intersessional work to engage with parties and stakeholders between COP6 and 7, as I said earlier. Thank you.
Thank you very much. European Union, Uganda. Excuse me, Uganda. Let me ask Sierra Leone. You also requested the floor. Sierra Leone, in this case, do you have a regional statement?
Yes.
Okay, so I will give you the floor first, and then I will give the floor to Uganda. So Sierra Leone, on behalf of the Africa region.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the African region, we reaffirm our collective commitment to ensuring that mercury waste is managed in an environmentally sound manner, consistent with Article 7 of the Convention and that of the Basel Convention guidelines. We recognize the decision UNEP MC/COP.6/8 adopted at COP5, establishing a 50 milligram per kg mercury waste threshold as a significant step forward. However, Africa believes that the review of this threshold must be based on updated scientific evidence and accompanied by meaningful financial and technical support for developing country parties. The African region calls for a cooperative approach between the Minamata and Basel Conventions to strengthen harmonized guidelines on stabilization, solidification, and long-term storage of mercury waste. We further urge the GEF and SIP to prioritize funding for national and regional waste management infrastructure, particularly in the Africa region. Mr. President, the African region stands ready to work constructively with all regions and parties to advance an equitable, science-based, and capacity-oriented decision on mercury waste management. We fully support the CRP led by Japan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sierra Leone, on behalf of the Africa region. And now I give the floor to Uganda.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. Uganda welcomes the draft note prepared by the Secretariat on mercury waste and aligns itself to the position of the Africa region as articulated by Sierra Leone. Uganda echoes the need for the proposed review of the mentioned threshold in the present note to be based on, among others, updated scientific evidence collected from majority of parties, also covering ecosystem vulnerability to mercury pollution. Uganda embraces the consideration regarding the development of requirements for environmentally sound management of mercury waste, pursuant to paragraph 3A of Article 11. Mr. President, Uganda requests the COP to call for the consideration of increased capacity building and financing for parties geared towards field and laboratory detection of mercury in waste, quantification of mercury levels in waste, and to safely manage mercury waste. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Uganda, Nigeria has the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We affirm our alignment with the African region's position to maintain the current 15 mg per kg threshold established under the decision MC510 as an interim value. This stance recognizes the critical need for further scientific assessment before the 7th session of the Conference of Parties, COP7. Furthermore, we support the establishment of a structured process to prepare for the review of mercury waste thresholds, aiming to determine a more health protective value. Nigeria has successfully developed a national action plan for the environmentally sound management of waste, benefiting from the support of the specific international program of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. The NAP clearly identifies strategies and challenges, including the inadequacies of sound infrastructure for mercury waste management as a significant barrier to the effective implementation of ESM of mercury waste. In light of these challenges, we urge that enhanced support through capacity building and technical assistance to be provided to enable developing countries and economies in transition to effectively implement Article 11 of the Minamata Convention. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Argentina.
Argentina, please.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The Republic of Argentina would like to thank the proponents for having submitted their conference room paper. We think it will be a good idea to analyze it a little further in a contact group, given that Article 11 on mercury-containing waste is fundamental to the effectiveness of the Minamata Convention. Handling mercury waste in an environmentally friendly way is a major challenge, particularly for developing countries, because in many cases they do not have the necessary level of technical development and/or financial resources to identify, collect, and process such waste in their own borders properly. Argentina would like to underscore the importance of stepping up international cooperation, this situation being what it is, inter alia through the transfer of technology and capacity building so as to ensure that mercury-containing waste is processed and handled properly. At the same time, we urge parties to include detailed information in their national reports on the implementation of Article 11, because doing that would contribute to better understanding of the progress made and the common challenges we face, and thereby strengthen the implementation of the Convention in its entirety. In conclusions, we would like to ask the Secretariat about the presentations of the parties on the use of the alternative threshold approach and public registration based on Decision MC 510 from COP5. We will be happy to continue, as I said, to address this agenda item further in a contact group. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Argentina. I will also turn to the Secretariat and check they've noted your question. It seems they have, which means I can safely give the floor to Canada.
President, Canada would like to thank Japan and Australia for their initiative in presenting the CRP to advance progress on mercury waste during the intersessional period between COP6 and COP7. Canada sees the CRP as presenting a logical path forward to continue momentum on various important actions on waste, as well as to continue collaboration with the Basel Convention. Canada is therefore very pleased to announce its support of the CRP. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada, for that clear and short intervention. Next in line is Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Kingdom of Jordan would like to express its support for the proposal made by Japan, Australia, and Norway with regard to the mercury waste. This aligns with the government's efforts to the environmentally sound management of mercury waste. And we find that the application of Article 11 of the Convention would provide the necessary framework for the states parties to provide the necessary contribution towards the elimination of mercury waste and its negative effect on the health of humans and the environment. We also like to see further clarity in terms of the mercury waste management to support our national plans in order to better manage mercury waste. And we welcome this proposal and look forward to further development of the proposed annex and its related activities, while reaffirming the importance to determine the threshold for mercury waste and the provision of technical and financial support to developing states in this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Next is Brazil.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brazil thanks Japan and Australia for the submission and supports its consideration in a contact group. The environmentally sound management of mercury waste is essential for achieving the objective of the Minamata Convention, and Article 11 remains a key pillar in this regard. We recognize the efforts made under previous decisions, including the establishment of thresholds and cooperation with the Basel Convention. Continued coordination with the Basel process is critical to ensure coherence, avoid duplication, and support countries in strengthening national waste frameworks. For many developing countries, and we agree with Argentina in that, the safe handling and disposal of mercury-containing waste remains a significant challenge. Brazil therefore emphasizes the importance of international cooperation, capacity building, technology transfer, and predictable financial support as we advance work under Article 11. Means of implementation are essential to ensure that all parties, in particular those with vulnerable territories and remote communities, can meet their obligations effectively. We also encourage parties to continue providing robust information through national reporting to support evidence-based decision-making and promote shared learning on mercury waste management. I thank you.
Thank you very much. To Brazil, the United States.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The United States would like to request that parties are encouraged to continue to provide the information requested in COP Decision 510, especially the technical information in any draft decision. We do not believe that parties have submitted all of the information necessary, which makes it difficult for the COP to then review that information as we head into COP 7 on this issue. On the work of the Basel Convention, although we are not a party to that convention, we appreciate its incorporation of Minamata Convention actions into its guidance documents referenced in this agenda item, and its continued collaboration on maintaining congruence between the Mercury technical guidelines of each convention. We welcome recognition of that work in any draft decision. One priority for the United States is to ensure that the public registry that we agreed to at COP 5 with respect to those parties choosing that alternative mechanism to the waste thresholds gets published. Which we just heard Argentina reference in its intervention as well. So we would also like to see that reflected in any draft decision text. We would also like to indicate our support for updating the indicative list and renewed decision text on that issue. On waste thresholds themselves, we would like to note that parties' experiences with these thresholds are still very new and in our view need more time to be used and for any challenges to be identified. We think it's a little bit early to be looking at challenges with those thresholds quite yet. With respect to the CRP, while we do support a number of the elements presented, we do not share the interpretation or direction related to soliciting information on the need for additional requirements. We have not heard any parties express a need for additional requirements, nor do we see the convention as requiring their development, although we do agree that should the parties agree to additional requirements, those would need to be in the form of an additional annex. We look forward to further discussion in a contact group of these issues and stand ready to work with other delegations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since we are speaking for the first time on behalf of the government and people of the Republic of Liberia, we wish to express our sincere appreciation to the government of Switzerland for their warm hospitality and graciously hosting the 6th meeting of the Conference of the Party. We also thank the Secretariat for its excellent preparation for this important global event. Mr. President, Liberia is honored to address this conference for the first time as a party to the Minamata Convention following our ratification in 2024. These milestones demonstrate our national commitment to protecting human health and the environment from mercury pollution. We fully align with the African Regional Statement on this agenda item. Liberia supports maintaining the 50 kilogram threshold of mercury waste as an interim value on Decision MC 510, while calling for a science-based review before COP 7 to ensure that the threshold reflects sound evidence and provide consistent protection globally. We emphasize for developing countries to achieve environmentally sound management of mercury waste requires adequate financial assistance. So we therefore call on the GEF and special international program and other partners to prioritize assisting countries to be able to support this process. Mr. President, we thank you so much.
Thank you. Pakistan has the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Pakistan prepared the National Hazardous Waste Management Policy 2 years ago, and under this policy we developed the National Action Plan, and now hazardous waste management rules are under process. We endorse the CRP3 submitted by Australia and Japan and also their statement to cooperate with the Secretariat of Basel Convention in its work to prepare draft updated technical guidelines on the environmentally sound management of waste containing the mercury compounds and their potential requirements of regulations and programs for the safe disposal of mercury. In this regard, Minamata Secretariat may facilitate the exchange of information among all the parties of all regions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pakistan. And now the Maldives has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Maldives welcomes and support the CRP submission by Japan, co-sponsored by Australia, to advance the development of requirements for the environmentally sound management of mercury waste under Article 11. We view this as an important step towards strengthening the implementation of the Convention. At the same time, we wish to emphasize that small island developing states, including the Maldives, we face significant constraints in applying the technical requirements such as the mercury waste thresholds, due to the limited analytical capacity and the absence of national treatment facilities in our countries. Although we have developed interim hazardous waste storage facilities for the secure containment of existing stockpiles of mercury-containing waste, the lack of national facilities for treatment or final disposal remains a critical gap for us. We therefore urge that as this process moves forward, parties ensure that the development of the future annex is accompanied by strong, dedicated support for seats, including capacity building, technology transfer, and regional cooperation mechanisms, and access to financial assistance. Tailored and flexible approaches will be essential to ensure that no party is left behind. Thank you, President.
Thank you very much. The Maldives. South Africa has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. South Africa aligns with the statement of the Africa region made by Sierra Leone. South Africa supports the decision and welcomes the further work that would be undertaken to get information from parties. South Africa cautions that waste threshold limits should not be reviewed at the detriment of developing countries. The lack of more sensitive testing equipment in developing countries should not be construed to indicate setting the mercury waste concentration thresholds at high levels, as that would expose vulnerable groups. South Africa will continue to learn from other parties on their current approaches on verifying waste thresholds, and we welcome the collaboration with the BRS Secretariat. South Africa supports the actions on advancing work on mercury waste under CRP3 by Japan and Australia. We stand ready to engage further with other delegations in a contact group setting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sri Lanka fully support for the paragraph 3 of Article 11 for the implementation of the Convention and welcome the note prepared by the Secretariat on Mercury Waste. Sri Lanka wishes to highlight the current status of mercury waste generation and management in the country. The mercury waste generates from mercury-added medical and other devices, CFL and fluorescence tubes, dental amalgam, education and research, along with the certain industrial applications. From a policy and legal perspective, mercury management is guided by the National Environmental Act, supported by regulations under the hazardous waste management rules, which include mercury and mercury-containing waste under the scheduled waste category. The Import and Export Control Act also restricts the importation of mercury-containing waste and mercury-containing pesticide. These regulations provide the legal basis for control, collection, storage, and disposal of mercury-containing waste. Sri Lanka has already initiated the phase-out of mercury-added products and established temporary storage facilities for mercury waste and at authorized location. The Ministry of Health and in collaboration with the Ministry of Environment is working to ensure the safe replacement of mercury containing devices with alternatives. Sri Lanka is steadily advancing towards the eliminating of mercury use and the environmentally sound management of mercury waste through policy reform, institutional strengthening and international cooperation in line with the objectives of the Minamata Convention. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Sri Lanka. Saudi Arabia has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving the floor to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. With regard to the 10th MC taken at the 5th session of the Conference of Parties, with regard to determining the thresholds for mercury waste, and especially with regard to paragraph 1 of the above mentioned decision, it is important to determine whether waste is mercury waste that falls under 2C of Article 11 of the Convention. It is important to point out what has been agreed upon at the 5th COP, and especially with regard to the preparation for the next session of the COP, with regard to determining the scheduling of mercury waste in tables 1, 2, and 3, in the annex, and especially with regard to paragraph 9 of the decision. Therefore, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia supports the proposal by Japan, Australia, and Norway, which builds on decision number 10 of the 5th session of the COP. It is important to carry on these efforts in coordination with the Basel Convention, as mentioned by the previous speakers. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia also welcomes the continuation of these efforts between in the intersessional period between the 6th and 7th COP, and cooperating with all the parties in this regard, and also to further discuss these matters at the contact group. Thank you.
Thank you. Zambia has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Zambian delegation acknowledges the decision adopted at COP5 on the mercury threshold of 15 milligram per kg as interim threshold, and aligns itself with the position of the Africa Group. Zambia welcomes the proposed intersessional work towards the development of requirements for mercury waste, as well as the use of scientific data to review the current threshold. We also underscore the need for cooperation between the Minamata, Basel, and Bamako conventions to ensure sound management of hazardous waste. We look forward to constructive and meaningful engagement on this matter and express our support to the CRP submitted by Japan and Australia. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Zambia. And now I call on Iran.
Thank you, Mr. President. My delegation welcomes efforts to develop a new annex under Article 11 setting requirements for mercury waste environment sound management. We emphasize that these requirements shall be based on the capacities of developing countries and ensure full alignment with the Basel Convention technical guidelines. We also call for establishing a financial and technical support mechanism to assist developing countries to meet these obligations effectively. We can also align with the CRP proposed by the esteemed delegates of Japan and supported by Australia and Norway. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Iran, for that intervention. And now I call on observers. First on the line is Aipen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm from Center for Environment, Justice and Development.
Excuse me, Aipen. Just WHO just pressed the button, and according to the rules, I should give the floor first to international organizations and then to NGOs. So Apologies to IPEN. Let me give the floor to WHO, and then immediately you will have the floor if there's no other international organizations requesting for the floor. WHO, please. And I hope this time you are more succinct.
Thanks very much, Mr. President. The World Health Organization welcomes the growing momentum among parties and partners safely managing and disposing of mercury-related waste, also in healthcare sector, in line with the Minamata Convention on Mercury. WHO also appreciates the opportunity to highlight relevant global guidance to support phasing out mercury-based medical devices and global efforts to strengthen healthcare waste systems, as well as the key learnings from Global Environment Facility supported multi-million global project co-led by WHO and UNEP on phasing out mercury-based measuring medical devices in 5 countries: Albania, Burkina Faso, India, Montenegro, and Uganda. WHO works with Ministry of Health to strengthen healthcare waste management, including for mercury, by putting in place evidence-based standards and regulations, regular monitoring and capacity building for healthcare workers. A new global data released by WHO and UNICEF in September indicates that most countries, 90%, have updated and/or validated waste standards. This is encouraging and supports commitments countries have made in 2023 UN General Assembly resolution, but also 2019 World Health Assembly resolution on same topic. WHO guidance on safe healthcare waste management, on a developing national strategy for phasing out mercury-containing medical products, and the forthcoming open access to WHO academic course on advanced healthcare waste, which includes new content on mercury waste, all support better and safer management of mercury waste. That said, WHO remains committed to supporting countries in their efforts. Lessons learned from above-mentioned GEF-supported Mercury project indicate that conducting a national situation analysis, engaging leadership at all levels, capacitating healthcare workers are all crucial. And furthermore, additional and collective efforts are needed to consider the environmentally sound disposal of waste, mercury waste. The Minamata Convention provides an important platform for strong and smart action, and WHO applauds all those involved working to protect human health and the environment from the adverse effects of mercury. Thank you.
Thank you. IPEN, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm from Center for Environment, Justice and Development, participating organization of IPEN. IPEN was disappointed with the waste threshold outcome at COP5, as a clause was inserted in the final decision, which undermined what was supposedly a globally harmonized threshold of 15 milligrams per kilogram. The clause, in effect, said that parties may use the 15 milligram per kilogram threshold or any other value they choose. This has potential to create many different values, while to define mercury waste, leading to export of materials that avoid mercury waste classification and associated import or export declarations. Parties may be importing materials without being aware that they are mercury waste compared to the 15 milligram per kilogram threshold. A global agreement should have a single harmonized value for the waste threshold definition of waste contaminated with mercury. In addition, some parties may have submitted information on their mercury waste management system to the Implementation and Compliance Committee, who have noted that there is a lack of mercury waste treatment facilities among parties, which increases the prospect of environmentally unsound outcomes. The draft, in conclusion, the draft decision before the scope contains an important element, which is to establish a process to prepare for the review of mercury waste thresholds. This is an important opportunity to review the problematic clause that allows any party to choose any value to define mercury waste. Parties should consider removing the exemption that allows a country to use any threshold values and adopt a single harmonized threshold value of 15 milligrams per kilogram. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much for that intervention. And now I call on the International Indian Treaty Council.
Home. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, sir.
Greetings, sisters and brothers. We are grateful to hear many member states recognize the importance of including the full and effective participation of indigenous peoples and the serious impacts Mercury has on our health, that of our future generations, and our environment. As an indigenous person from the Caribbean, a Taino Arawak, it is important to note the impact that military waste, mountains of exposed toxic coal ashes, as is the case in Boriquen, which you know as Puerto Rico, and the denial from both state, agencies, military branches, and transnational corporations on the close relationship of the illnesses and cancer rates suffered in the vicinities where these waste deposits are located. For example, the U.S. Navy performed exercises for over 60 years in our island municipality of Vieques, and the cancer rates in that island are 25% higher than those in the Big Island. We have high rates of the top non-contagious diseases and a rise in autoimmune and respiratory diseases. The same is the case with those near the coal-burning plants and the neighborhoods where the now closed battery recycling plant was at. In the Dominican Republic, for example, the contract with a Canadian mining company has been renewed. Tokens of perceived good things for the communities blur the impacts Mercury has on our health, water, and air. This to us represents environmental violence and racism. We call on states to implement the commitments, not just on this convention, but to uphold the rights of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, as those represent the minimum standards, and they committed to those as well. Hahom, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have the International Association for Dental Research.
On behalf of the FDI World Dental Federation, the International Association for Dental Research, and the International Dental Manufacturers, we thank the Chair for this opportunity to intervene. Waste management is a critical component of the Minamata Convention on Mercury to eliminate mercury from the environment. It is important to note that regardless of when dental amalgam is phased down or out, amalgam separators would still be needed, as current amalgam restorations may be repaired or replaced. Yet, waste management continues to be a last consideration, not the first, in discussing dental amalgam. We call on parties to institute a three-part approach. Mandate, not an optional provision, for effective amalgam capture at source. Require the installation, operation, and maintenance of certified amalgam separators in all dental facilities connected to sewerage or on-site sanitation, and incorporate this requirement into licensing and inspection regimes. This has been put forth into effect in countries within North America and Europe. Adopt national regulations with key performance measures that compel contacts with licensed collectors and mercury recyclers, with cradle-to-grave documentation. Partnerships with waste collectors need to be developed to ensure that waste is efficiently collected, treatment, and effectively retrieved for sequestering. Invest in and prioritize funding for waste management. Waste management should be mandatory, and it is about time that countries invest in waste management. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that concludes the list of speakers on the item on mercury waste. So after listening to all your interventions, after listening to all your interventions, I heard one question to the Secretariat by Argentina and by the United States, basically the same question. So I will allow now the Secretariat to respond to these two delegations.
Thank you, President. I understand that the question was about the alternative approach and the repository of that information pursuant to the decision 5/10. And pursuant to decision 5/10, the Executive Secretary issued a letter inviting parties to provide that information, but we have not received no explicit information to that question. And although, of course, pursuant to that same decision, parties have submitted information and regulation practice of mercury waste management, and in these submissions, there was some description of mercury, the definition of hazardous waste and so on, but we have not been able to identify which information is to be published in that repository. So, in short, we have not received information, so the repository has not been established. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eisaku. Is Argentina and the United States satisfied with the response from the Secretariat? Argentina?
Thank you, President.
So we will reflect about this issue because we have record that we have answered that that asks for information. So it's only to encourage the other party to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Argentina. So that is the first part of what we had in the interventions on this agenda item. What I heard from all the interventions on this issue is that parties welcome and generally support the draft decision containing the CRP, while some parties propose some changes to the draft decision that we ascertain are not very controversial. Those parties are Argentina, Brazil, and the United States. All of the other interventions were in support, as I take note of it. Therefore, my intention is to propose to Japan that together with interested parties to revise the draft decision in CRP3, and if Japan agrees, to submit a revised text of this draft decision to the Secretariat so we can adopt this decision in plenary. As I said before, I note that Argentina, Brazil, and the United States have proposed changes to the draft decision. And the question to plenary now, is there any other party that wishes to be consulted in revising this decision? So we have also Sierra Leone to be added to these parties, and Chile. So now the question to plenary. Are there any objections to my proposal to request Japan to revise the draft decision as I have just described? I think I have to request Japan first if they're willing to take on this task. Where is Japan? Where is Japan? Okay, Japan, you have the floor to see if you can conduct these consultations.
Thank you, President. Yes, Japan is happy to take the task to voluntarily coordinate with other parties who is interested in revising the draft CRP and with seeking a support by our co-sponsors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now the question is to the plenary if you have any objections to the path forward. Seeing no objections, it is so decided. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. So it looks like we're going to go into the capacity building and technical assistance and technology transfer item, which is 4F. This was supposed to be the last agenda item for the morning session, and it looks like that is going to be the last agenda item for the afternoon session, so we are still lagging one session behind. So now to introduce this agenda item, I will give the floor to the Secretariat. Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the document relevant to this agenda is document number 13. It provides an overview of the key insights from the desk study on alternative technologies, related challenges, and needs of parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury, including relevant case studies undertaken by the Secretariat pursuant to paragraph 4 of Article 14 and decision MC 5/12. The document also describes the work that the Secretariat has conducted to increase the development and deployment of training and information materials and other efforts on capacity building and technical assistance. The work that the Secretariat proposes to do in the next biennium, 2026-2027, as described in the Program of Work and Budget Activity Fact Sheet on capacity building and technical assistance, to be funded by voluntary contributions to the Special Trust Fund. The annex to the document 13 provides a draft decision. A number of information documents are available to inform this agenda item. Information document 18 contains the full desk study report on the overview of alternative technologies under the Minamata Convention on Mercury, including relevant case studies undertaken pursuant to decision MC 5/12. Information document 33 contains the report on the activities undertaken within the Global Mercury Partnership of UNEP from January 2024 to July 2025. The Secretariat would like to sincerely thank the European Union, Switzerland, and Japan for their support in relation to activities on capacity building and technical assistance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexander. With this introduction, now we open the floor on this particular agenda item. Parties, European Union.
Thank you, Mr. President. The European Union and its member states would like to thank the Secretariat for its work on capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. We would also like to express appreciation for the compiled desk study with the overview of alternative technologies under the Convention. The shared documentation forms a good basis for discussion. The European Union and its member states would also like to thank the Secretariat for preparing a draft decision under this agenda item. Although we largely support the draft decision, we would like to add, subject to the availability of resources, in paragraph 7. We will send this proposal for amendment in writing to the Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. European Union, Sierra Leone.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the African region, we want to thank the great effort of the Secretariat for putting together this work. African countries face growing challenges in controlling mercury use, emissions, and illegal trade due to limited technical capacity, inadequate monitoring infrastructure, and weak border enforcement. The continent urgently needs targeted regional capacity building rather than generic training. Priority areas include specialized training for customs and port officials to detect and intercept illegal mercury shipments and mercury-added products, which frequently move through informal routes linking West, Central, and South Africa. The African region also requires regional mercury monitoring laboratories equipped with analytical technology for air, water, biological sampling to generate reliable data for reporting under the Convention. Technology transfer for mercury-free artisanal and small-scale gold mining is essential, with regional demonstration sites to showcase alternatives such as gravity concentration, and borax methods. Support from partners through the UNEP should focus on establishing shared training hubs, laboratory networks, and digital trading tracking systems, which targeted African-specific assistance will strengthen compliance, reduce illegal mercury trade, and protect vulnerable communities while advancing sustainable development goals. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much to Sierra Leone. Ahora Colombia tiene la palabra.
Colombian delegation, please.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, sir. On this agenda item and the draft decision submitted for the consideration of the parties, the delegation of Colombia would like to underscore the importance of strengthening the provisions related to the access to development of and transfer of technology as part of the effective implementation of the Minamata Convention. Colombia proposes that we strengthen the language of paragraph 1 so that we do not limit ourselves only to making a general invitation. We should use a term such as urge, for example, which would be directed to those developed countries which have more access to and more availability of environmentally appropriate technology. That doesn't mean we're not extending the same invitation to others, including international organizations in the private sector, inter alia, so as to participate in technical and scientific cooperation under the Convention. We'd also point out a translation error to the Secretariat in this same paragraph. In the English version, it says, invites the relevant countries, states party and other parties. In the Spanish version, it says invite developing country parties and other parties. This could lead to erroneous interpretation by Spanish language speakers reading these documents and using them for joint evaluation at national level. Lastly, Colombia believes it important that the text of the decision explicitly include the development of the Minamata exchange platform described in Information Document 26. This platform could become a key mechanism for furthering the exchange of information, good practices, lessons learned, and opportunities for cooperation in areas such as clean technology and environmentally sound management of mercury and its alternatives. Thank you. Thank you. Colombia, Japan, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. On agenda item 4F concerning capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer, Japan wishes to emphasize that these three pillars are essential for the effective implementation of Minamata Convention across all parties. In this regard, Japan can generally support the draft decision presented under this agenda item. Japan has long been committed to international cooperation in this field. We would like to highlight our contributions under the Moyai Initiative, launched as a diplomatic conference held in Japan in 2013. Through this initiative, the Ministry of the Environment Japan has been actively sharing the hard-won lessons from our experience in Minamata. We have worked alongside many developing countries, sharing our knowledge to help them develop national action plans, establish Mercury inventories, and strengthen their institutional capacities. These efforts are complemented by technical cooperation projects through the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA. These projects focus on human resource development and knowledge sharing, tailored to the specific needs of our partner countries. Furthermore, in the multilateral sphere, Ministry of the Environment Japan has taken the lead of the waste management partnership area of the UNEP Global Mercury Partnership. Through this role, we have contributed to providing practical information on how to manage mercury waste in an environmentally sound manner, in collaboration with various stakeholders, including international organizations, NGOs, private sectors, and academia. So, Mr. President, Japan reaffirms its steadfast commitment to working collaboratively with fellow parties. We will continue to engage closely with UNEP, other UN organizations, and partner countries to share our experience and expertise. We believe that by working together and enhancing our collective capacity, we can make significant strides towards our shared goal of protecting human health and the environment from mercury. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Japan. Now I have Saudi Arabia.
شكرا سعادة الرئيس لإتاحة الكلمة.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for giving me the floor. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would like to welcome the document that has been presented under Article 14 of the Convention on Capacity Building, Technical Assistance and Technology Transfer. We studied carefully the desk study and activities undertaken by the Secretariat, and we appreciate the efforts to develop training tools and interactive platforms, as well as cooperation with international organizations and international partnerships, which will be an important step forward to help states parties to comply with their commitments. We believe that technology transfer for developing countries is an essential pillar for achieving the objectives of the Convention. This should take place through support for national policies and with necessary financing and technical and institutional capacity building, and we should emphasize the importance of continuing cooperation with multilateral partnerships, because this will have a positive impact on the exchange of expertise. In this regard, my country supports the recommendations that are contained in the document to ensure the application of activities at a global level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Ahora le doy la palabra a...
Uruguay, please. Thank you very much, sir. The Uruguayan delegation is grateful for the study on alternative technology-related challenges and the needs of the states party under the Minamata Convention. The issue of alternative technologies, of course, is complicated, as is the issue of the availability of information on the needs of the parties, particularly those parties which are developing countries. However, we do note with pleasure that the role of regional centres under the Basel and Stockholm Conventions in respect of the provision of assistance on the implementation of the Minamata Convention are mentioned. We would like to be sure that in the draft decision on the application of Article 14 of the Minamata Convention, in respect of capacity building, technical assistance and technology transfer, look again at paragraph 3 when a request is made to the Secretariat depending on the availability of resources and in cooperation with others, add among other parties. So it's not only the Global Association Against Mercury that we should be including, because there are other regional centres which could help with capacity building, technical assistance and technology transfer too. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much to Uruguay. I now give the floor to Kenya.
Thank you, Mr. President. Kenya first aligns to the statement made by Sierra Leone on behalf of the Africa region. In addition, Kenya welcomes the Secretariat's efforts to develop the desk study and case studies in Info 18 as mandated, and views this as important tools to assess existing initiatives and gaps in technology transfer. As a developing country party, Kenya underscores the need for capacity building, technical assistance, and access to environmentally sound alternative technologies that are affordable, accessible, and practical for effective implementation of the Convention. Support for focused monitoring and evaluation to track the implementation matrix will be required as well. Kenya further emphasizes the importance of sustainable and predictable funding, as well as enhanced South-to-South and triangular cooperation to facilitate effective technology transfer and knowledge exchange. As a new party, Kenya reaffirms its commitment to the effective implementation of the Convention, but urges continued international collaboration to ensure equitable access to the means necessary for a successful transition to mercury-free practices. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Kenya. Next in line is Cameroon.
Mr. President, my delegation aligns itself with the statement delivered by the Africa Group, and we welcome your leadership in how you are guiding our deliberations. We have consistently taken measures to implement our obligations under the Minamata Convention since our accession in March of 2021. We are implementing rigorously the provisions of the Convention, and we have adopted a national action plan to reduce and, where feasible, eliminate the use of mercury in ASGM, and we did so in 2024. This national action plan has enabled us to assess the level of mercury pollution in communities where ASGM mining takes place in order to better preserve and eliminate its use. Waters, soils, sediments, and fish contain high levels of mercury as a result of the increasing scope of these activities. We would like to welcome the support of the government of Japan, which has enabled us to achieve in 2020 a study on mercury pollution and in waste management facilities in order to continue such efforts. We banned in 2022 the import of cosmetic products that contain substances such as mercury due to the consequences of their impact on human health. And we also took measures in 2014 to promote the use of material that is clinically effective and that does not contain mercury. And also we have trained professionals, dental professionals in the dentistry sector. We have trained them to use substances that do not contain mercury. Consultations are currently underway with medical professionals to that end, so as to eliminate the use of dental amalgams. Mr. President, technology transfer and sharing should be a principle and a fundamental practice within this assembly. It is also essential to adopt a holistic approach and to propose solutions that will help us to face the challenges, particularly for African countries. Furthermore, like many countries, we want to improve monitoring of supply chains and the production and importing and exporting of mercury. In addition, it is essential to support parties in their efforts so that they can obtain equipment which enables us to monitor and control mercury and mercury compounds in the environment and to ensure the environmentally sound management of waste in our countries. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup à la déléguée du Cameroun pour son...
Thank you for that intervention.
Is Uganda.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving Uganda the floor. Uganda aligns with the position of Africa region as presented by Sierra Leone in regard to the implementation of activities pursuant to Decision 5/12 and Article 14 on capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. Uganda acknowledges the progress made by the secretaries that detailed out under the present note. Uganda has made strides in capacity building and skilling and zoning of artisanal and small-scale mining areas, and licenses have been issued out. Uganda requests the COP to call upon the Global Environment Facility and other donors to continue strengthening the adoption of mercury-free alternative technology. Uganda appreciates the various partners that have supported us in this stride: Planet Gold, the Global Environment Facility, UNEP, GIZ, African Union, BGR, German. While alternative technologies exist, they are not a one-size-fits-all. Their adoption remains slow due to low efficiency, limited availability, high costs, and the need for a mindset change among the artisanal miners. Uganda calls for a convention-wide survey to identify specific technology needs, barriers, and opportunities across parties. This will ensure that interventions are evidence-based and context-specific. Uganda underscores the need to enhance capacity to collect and manage data on mercury emissions, stocks, and sources, to identify and remediate contaminated sites, and to train custom officers, dental practitioners, and relevant authorities. Developing national standards for mercury-free technologies and monitoring is equally critical. Uganda recognizes the importance of locally led innovations, the need to conduct detailed technology assessment and promotion of efficient and effective technologies designed with artisanal miners at the forefront. Collaboration with academia, small and medium enterprises, and mining communities will ensure a buy-in and practical adoption. Establishing a revolving fund to facilitate the acquisition of mercury-free technologies among artisanal and small-scale miners is essential to sustain this transition. Furthermore, Uganda stresses the need for consistent, needs-based, and gender-responsive capacity building, particularly for women, youth, indigenous people, host communities, and relevant government institutions, focused on the manufacture, repair, and maintenance of alternative technologies. Technical assistance should also support compliance with environment and social governance principles to meet responsible market standards. Uganda calls for stronger synergies with the United Nations Climate Technology Center and Network, the technology mechanism for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, to leverage additional support for mercury-free technologies. In light of the above, Mr. President, Uganda urges parties to support the draft decision on the implementation of Article 14, focusing on capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. These measures are vital to strengthen strengthen capacities, promote sustainable alternatives, and achieve a mercury-free artisanal and small-scale gold mining sector. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Iran?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. President, the Islamic Republic of Iran firmly believes that the success of the Minamata Convention depends on the balanced and equitable implementation of all its provisions. While the developing countries remain committed to meeting their responsibilities, the ability to do so effectively depends on the availability of the adequate financial resources, technology transfer, technical assistance, and capacity building. In this regard, Iran underscores that Article 13 and 14 of the Convention concerning financial mechanism and capacity building constitute binding commitments and are the prerequisite for achievement of the Convention's objective. Insufficient or delayed support hinders implementation and could lead to compliance challenges beyond the control of developing countries. In that reason, Iran supports the draft decision on this issue. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Next in line is Senegal, and I will appeal to you to make your interventions short so we can finish on time.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senegal would like to thank Switzerland for their support in organizing this meeting, and we hope that one day a country from the south will be able to organize the next COP with the support of countries from the north. Allow me to echo the position expressed by Sierra Leone on the decisions to be taken, and above all, I would like to use this opportunity to thank and commend the support of the World Health Organization in the dental amalgams project. We have received a lot of support to improve our systems to that end, and now is the opportunity to thank them for that. We support this process, but we are also very concerned in that every time there are mercury inventories, despite measures taken under the convention, we note that mercury continues to increase globally, above all in the ASGM sector. Authorities entreat us as focal points of the convention, and now what we need to do is look at what we can do very concretely and tangibly. But on the ground, in reality, mercury content is increasing, particularly illicit trafficking. And another important point, we would like support from countries of the north when it comes to technology transfer, and particularly with regard to customs processes, which helps us when it comes to technology transfer from countries of the north to countries of the south. If we obtain this, this will help us to build capacities of our laboratories, which are currently lacking the necessary material to measure mercury. Thank you, participants.
Thank you. United States, please.
Thank Thank you, Mr. President. The United States is grateful to the Secretariat for preparing the draft decision on this topic. In the interest of brevity, the United States would like to see a change to the first operative paragraph to align with the language set forth in Article 14, paragraph 3 of the Convention. We are happy to submit this edit in writing to the Secretariat. And with that change secured, we are happy to support the decision as drafted. Thank you.
So the United States, please have that ready. I might surprise you at the end of this session. Mozambique, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mr. President. As the first time that Mozambique takes the floor, we extend our deeply gratitude for Switzerland for the warm hospitality and Minamata Secretariat to attend the COP6. Mozambique, aligning with the Africa region, and has already made progress with some instruments, such as the National Action Plan, and for its implementation, we would like to have capacity building for the authorization of the instruments that include mainly mercury-free techniques and technology to phase out mercury in artisanal and small-scale mining. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mozambique. Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sri Lanka welcomed the note prepared by the Secretariat on capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer. As a developing country with limited technical infrastructure for mercury monitoring and waste management, Sri Lanka underscores the importance of sustained and targeted capacity building to strengthen national implementation. We particularly highlight the need for support in establishing mercury laboratories, developing inventories, disposal facilities, and adapting environmentally sound management practices for mercury waste in the country. We also recognize the valuable contributions made by the Global Environment Facility and the specific international program in building technical capacities. However, continued and predictable finance and technical assistance remain essential to ensure that developing countries can meet their obligations under the Convention. Sri Lanka reaffirms its commitment to work with the Secretariat, implementing agencies and regional partners to share knowledge, strengthen institutional frameworks, and promote technology transfer that aligns with the obligations of the Minamata Convention and national development priorities. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Sri Lanka. Jordan has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jordan would like to reaffirm the importance of the draft decision, particularly with regard to capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer to meet our obligations under the Minamata Convention, particularly for developing countries. We believe that capacity building at a national level, particularly with regard to monitoring of waste and of mercury levels, is important. It is also important to allow countries to have access to technology. This technology needs to be transferred equitably so that we can strengthen efforts undertaken in this regard. We call for continued cooperation between the Secretariat and partners, in particular the regional centres for the Basel and Stockholm Conventions. We must support states parties and build their capacities so that needs are met in all countries. We call for sufficient financing, and this is a precondition to ensure the success of efforts undertaken under this convention, and we must also coordinate financing under this convention and under other conventions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Bangladesh.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity again. As we all know that Bangladesh is not a mercury-producing country. We have the import of mercury-added products. So Bangladesh emphasizes that the success of Minamata Convention depends on effective capacity building and technology transfer. For many developing countries, including Bangladesh, the lack of advanced laboratories, monitoring system, and waste management technologies remains a major barrier to implementation. We call for predictable and sustained support to strengthen institutional and technical capacity, particularly for mercury waste management, emission monitoring, and enforcement of trade controls. We are also facing, we are trying to phasing out, but the illegal trading and online markets are very much bringing the mercury-contained products in the country. So we specifically seeking special consideration of the Secretariat and of the parties regarding on these issues. And technology transfer must be affordable, accessible, and tailored to national circumstances, ensuring that no party is left behind. Bangladesh stands ready to work with the Secretariat, development partners, and fellow parties to promote cooperative programs that deliver real solutions on the ground. We reaffirm our commitment to advancing the convention through strengthened capacity building and technologies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now we move on to observers. Zero Mercury Working Group.
Thank you, Mr. President. This year marks 20 years of the Zero Mercury Working Group, as you kindly acknowledged yesterday. So 20 years that our network of more than 110 NGOs is supporting governments for a mercury-free world. As co-lead of the Global Mercury Partnership on Products, the Zero Mercury Working Group continues to support parties to implement and enforce the provisions of the Convention. For example, our guide for a roadmap to phase out mercury-added products is part of the capacity building materials shared by with parties by the Secretariat. Since the last COP, we have been supporting activities with our NGO partners in 3 African and 3 Asian countries who have been assisting their respective governments towards eliminating mercury-added skin lightening creams and promoting mercury-free ASGM. Our global campaign on skin lightening creams, including 2 new reports published this month, has been contributing information via our database with now over 1,000 creams tested. Results show the ongoing use of mercury in these products available worldwide in physical shops and through e-commerce platforms. We thank our partners for their collaboration and our funders for their continued trust. We welcome the ongoing capacity building efforts on mercury-added cosmetics under GEF-funded projects. The current UNEP-led project, executed by WHO and the Biodiversity Research Institute in Sri Lanka, Gabon, and Jamaica, is achieving tangible progress, and we welcome being able to contribute by addressing online sales of mercury-added cosmetics. We also commend the approval of a new 6-year GEF project in 13 African countries, which will further strengthen regional capacity. Under ACP MEA 3, so the third phase of the African, Caribbean, Pacific Multilateral Environmental Agreements Program, we also provided assistance to 3 Caribbean governments towards phasing out mercury-added products. You are welcome to pass by our booth, where we can share our experiences and tools that we have developed. So as always, the Zero Mercury Working Group stands ready to work collaboratively and assist parties in building the capacity needed to achieve our shared goal, make mercury history. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zero Mercury, and for that intervention and for the invitation to go to your booth. So that concludes with the views expressed in plenary with regards to this particular agenda item, capacity building, technology transfer, and technical assistance. So from all the views here, the recurrent issue is the importance of capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer for the successful implementation of the Convention, for achieving the goal of the Convention. And what I can gather is that is a lot of support for the decision that is in document 13. So in light of the support, I would like to move and see if we can adopt that decision with the amendments that were proposed from the floor. Just to remind plenary, we're entering in decision-making mode, so only parties can take the floor. On paragraph 1, operational 1, we had two requests. We have one request from Colombia to exchange the verb at the beginning, which today says invites, for urges. But also we heard from the United States that we should adhere to the text of the Convention in Article 14, paragraph 3. So I will give the floor now to the United States to read the amendment they want to see in the draft decision, so to see if the rest of plenary can accept that amendment. The U.S.
Thank you, Mr. President. After the language invites developed country parties and other parties, we propose insertion within their capabilities, supported by the private sector and other relevant stakeholders as appropriate, comma, and then it continues on with the draft text. And we make a deletion at the very end. After country parties, we delete and parties with economies in transition and instead substitute, in particular, the least developed countries and small island developing states and parties with economies in transition to strengthen their capacity to effectively implement this convention. And this text is found in Convention Article 14, paragraph 3.
So the first question, and probably the easiest question, is, can we live with the insertion that the United States just outlined, considering that this is the verbatim text found in Article 14, paragraph 3? I see no objection. And now we have the proposal by Colombia. The proposal by Colombia is to modify the verb at the beginning, which now says invites, for urges. Can we accept that amendment? Thank you very much. Let's now move to the amendment proposed by the European Union. In your draft decision from document 13, in paragraph 7, the European Union is suggesting to include the phrase subject to the availability of resources. Can we live with that amendment? Colombia, Colombia,
Una pregunta.
A question of procedure, Chairman. We'd like to refer to the proposal tabled by the United States concerning modification of the end of paragraph 1. Is this the correct moment to make the point we want to make, or would you prefer us to do it later? We have no comments on the European Union proposal. It's a little clarity that we seek on the proposal from the United States, where there's a reference added to least developed countries and small island developing states. Thank you.
Párrafo.
That was the previous paragraph. We've already adopted that paragraph.
Ahora estaba preguntando por la enmienda.
I was asking now if anyone had any reaction to the inclusion proposed in operative paragraph 7 by the EU, where they wanted to add the word subject to the availability of resources. That's what I was asking now. Thank you.
Floor again.
Sí, señor.
Yes, I am, Chairman. And I do apologize, but perhaps you didn't see that Colombia was actually seeking the floor. My colleague did request the floor when you were asking for reactions to or comments on the proposal from the United States. That proposal is not acceptable to us. You didn't, however, give us the floor at the time. That's why I raised my flag now, not because I wanted to comment on the proposal from the EU, but because I wanted to say that we cannot proceed with the US proposal. Thank you.
Reason of their amendment. So I hope after you hear from the United States, you will be able to agree. So I will give the floor once again to the United States to inform what is the reasoning behind the amendment of Operational 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. We believe that the Secretariat's original drafting inadvertently mischaracterized the donor and recipient language in ways that deviated from Article 14, paragraph 3, and we simply want to make that language harmonized. These edits restore fidelity to the article.
So the idea behind the amendment from the United States was to replicate the exact language that is in the convention. Let me move to the amendment proposed by Uruguay or Saudi Arabia.
سعادة الرئيس شكرا لإعطاء الكلمة.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for giving me the floor. Saudi Arabia would like to propose that the United States amendment proposal be displayed on the screen so that we can take a decision. Thank you.
Saudi Arabia, with your indulgence, I rather refrain from displaying anything at this moment in plenary. Again, what the U.S. has just suggested is that we replicate the convention text in operational paragraph 1. The convention text that they are proposing, you can find it in Article 14, paragraph 3. Colombia?
Thank you, Chairman. If you could give me just a minute.
Nuestro entendimiento.
Our understanding from the original point made by the United States delegation, Chairman, is that they want to align the reference to developing countries by replacing it with a reference to small island developing states and least developed countries. That is not the language of the convention, which is why we're in a bit of confusion given the second statement from the United States. The article to which you refer, which is paragraph 3 of Article 14, refers to developing countries which are parties, and particularly the least developed countries and small island developing states, as well as countries with economies in transition. If that is the text proposed, my delegation would have no objection, but it is not what we heard from the United States here in this room. Under no circumstances could my country, at any rate, accept deletion of the reference to developing countries. Thank you.
Do something different, because what I understood from the outset is that they requested to take the text from the convention and insert that in OP1. So basically, we are reverting to agreed text. So I suppose that with that clarification, you will be able to accept the amendment. Brazil?
Gracias, señor presidente.
Chairman, thank you. I simply wanted to support what was said by the distinguished delegation of Colombia. We can't accept any proposal that takes out the words developing countries either. And if we're going to continue with the agreed language of Article 14.3, fine. But changing that to have countries in need or something along those lines would to us be unacceptable. Thank you.
Colombia?
Thank you, sir. Just for a point of clarity, United States, would you mind rereading again the language which you're proposing, and then we'd all know exactly what it is?
Thank you, Mr. President. We are not seeking to strike language about developing country parties. So the end piece, which seems to be of most concern here, we propose removing, you would take out language and parties with economies in transition at the very end. You'd remove that, and you regain that back in what I'm about to read. You add in the language from 14.3, in particular, the least developed countries and small island developing states and parties with economies in transition to strengthen their capacity to effectively implement this convention.
Which is exactly what it is in the convention. So can we accept that? Thank you very much. Now we go to the last amendment to the convention, and that is from Uruguay. Uruguay. Oh, I said convention? Oh, my mistake. So I guess it's been a long day. Paragraph 10 of the decision in document 13, what am I saying? Paragraph 3. Paragraph 3, in the second line, at the end of the second line says, in collaboration with the Global Mercury Partnership, and then there's a comma, and Uruguay wants to add the phrase among others, comma, and then the paragraph will continue with information on existing initiatives. So they want to just have the insertion of among others in that paragraph. Can we accept that amendment? I see no objection. So those are all the three amendments proposed from plenary. So now I will ask plenary, can we adopt the decision contained in document 13 with the amendments that we just heard in plenary and accepted by the audience? I see no objection. It is so decided. Thank you very much for your patience. So before we go to housekeeping and before the interpreters cut off their microphones, my apologies for going so long on these. I would like to say that tomorrow, from tomorrow onwards, I'm bringing a timer because nobody has listened to my request to shorten their interventions. So as of tomorrow, I will have a timer here of 2 minutes, and after your 2 minutes, your microphone will be cut off. Because I tried to be patient with you, and you didn't comply with my request. I love you very much, but my love doesn't extend so I can go further on Friday. With that said, do we have any housekeeping?
Just announce where the contact.
Okay. So now we will have announcements to the contact groups and other groups.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to announce the contact groups for this evening, and they will be placed on the screens throughout the venue following this announcement. Contact groups will meet tonight on technical matters from 7:30 p.m. till 10 p.m. in room A. The contact group on program of work and budget will start working tonight from 7 p.m. in room C. And the Friends of the President group on legal matters is setting itself up right now to start working till 7:30 p.m. in room A. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Apologies for keeping you so late, but this COP has been very productive. I really want to applaud you for your help.